If the world is round, half its people must spend their whole lives upside down. Many such fantastic notions were held by philosophers, kings, and explorers who first asked, what is the world made of? At the center of everything was the Earth. Then, like a montage of Ferris wheels, the heavens moved around it. A tone separated Earth from the Moon, a further semitone to Mercury, and on through the planets, sun, and stars. Their revolutions created a constant hum, the harmony of the spheres.
Radio signals. Apparently for 15 years now, researchers and astronomers have been receiving ultra bright and ultra strong signals lasting only a few milliseconds, but still notable to observe. These flashes have been called FRBs, fast radio bursts, and apparently they appear to be coming from billions of light years away. It has been said that of course they are not aliens. Of course they would say that. Oh really? So you're so sure that they're not aliens? Okay. Well, then what are they? They don't actually know. People are funny. They don't know where they're coming from and what they mean, but they know for sure that it is not by any means aliens. I reject this conclusion. How do they know that when they know nothing about where they're coming from? Sounds like fake news to me. In our number 9 spot, we have the moon. Aw, the idea of a moon with a little baby brother or sister is just so cute. Well, as silly as this may sound, it's a real theory. Apparently it's been known by its internet name, the Moon. I like it. To the point. Clear cut. I get it. The Moon has a few other names. The sub-moon, the moonitos, personal favorite of mine, grand moons, and moonettes, to name a few. So anyways, it hasn't technically been discovered yet, but in theory, it is possible apparently. One day we shall discover the moonitos, aka moon, and it shall be a good day for mankind. In our number 8 spot, we have space pasta. Apparently it has been discovered that the strongest substance in the universe is something called nuclear pasta. Nuclear pasta is protons and neutrons in a star's shriveled husk. It is formed from what is left of a dead star. It has crazy gravitational pressure, which squeezes the protons and neutrons into linguine-like tangles of material. Hence the pasta name. Gosh, I hate when unedible things are named after food. It's just wrong. Hearing them just makes me hungry and it sucks. But anyways, thinking of a leftover star forming to create a sort of space pasta is pretty cool. I feel like that could be the premise of a fun children's book. If you turn this into a book, I don't care about the copyright rights, just dedicate the book to me and thank me for being an idea guy. In our number 7 spot, we have Tabby's star. A star has been found, but this isn't any normal star. This is a star that apparently dips in and out of brightness at irregular intervals and for unusual lengths of time, apparently up to a 22% dimming in brightness. The Tabby star was discovered by astronomer Tabitha Boyajian of Louisiana State University. People have debated over what the heck is going on here. Why is it dimming so much? And some of the theories I am definitely on board for, like the idea of an alien megastructure. What a cool thought. The most popular theory is that it's really just a large ring of dust that's causing the dimming. Nah, that theory sucks. Alien megastructure for the win. In our number 6 spot, we have infrared light. Astronomers have discovered that there is a long stream of infrared light coming from what is known as a neutron star, which is basically dense objects formed after the death of a regular star. But get this, the infrared light is coming from 800 light years away. I know this may not mean anything to you if you don't know much about space, but from what I've gathered, this is something that has never been observed before. Yet again, the only operating theory theory is that it's just dust surrounding the star, but no one really knows. It's crazy to think that neutron stars are constantly emitting high-energy radiation comparable to X-rays, and that this one traveled 800 light years. It makes you think about how that could possibly affect us and what we don't know that we don't know. In our number 5 spot, we have rogue planets. Rogue planets are basically baby planets that have been flung away from their parent star due to gravitational forces. There is one that has been found that is known as, well, are you ready? Because this one's a mouthful. SIMP J013656663 plus 0933473. Wow. Couldn't they have just given it a fun name like Melissa? I should write to them. Or they could even use my last name because I made it up, so there's no other star or person like it. NASA, you have my permission. Melody may be given to a star phenomena. You're welcome. Anyways, SIMP J plus 15 numbers is apparently considered a rogue planet object that's 200 light years away, and the magnetic force and the magnetic field is supposedly more than 200 times stronger than Jupiter's. A strong force can make flashing auras, and this can be seen with radio telescopes. In our number 4 spot, we have the moon Hyperion. A lot of astronomers have said that the weirdest moon that has been discovered so far is Jupiter's moon, which is called Hyperion. Hyperion is truly a weird shape, not quite round like our moon, and it's full of craters. It looks like a rock that you might find on the beach that you throw into the water because it doesn't look as pretty as the more colorful rock. Am I right, or am I right, or am I right? Apparently it has a very chaotic rotation. Its axis of rotation apparently wobbles so much that its orientation in space is unpredictable. It is also known to be composed largely of water ice. Only a small amount of it is actually rock. Interesting. In our number 3 spot, we have high energy neutrino. NASA's Fermi telescope helped astronomers discover something miraculous on September 22nd, 2017. They identified a monster black hole in a far-off galaxy as the source of a high-energy neutrino that was projected at this planet, planet Earth, and seen by the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory. Apparently it hit the Antarctic ice with energy of about 300 trillion electron volts. For perspective, that is more than 45 times the energy achievable by the most powerful particle accelerator on Earth. Well, to think that this had no effect on humanity at all would be a serious lack of understanding how everything in life affects one another. To know that the gravitational pull of the moon affects the tides in the ocean is to know that this energy strike absolutely affected us somehow, whether we understand it or not. I scrolled back and saw that I did get my Reiki license that day, so no wonder I feel magic in my blood. It was the neutrino particles from galaxies away. Even though it hit Antarctica and not Canada, but we're on the same planet, so whatever, it fits my narrative and I'm sticking to it. Coming up in our number 2 spot, we have a strange galaxy. In 2016, astronomers discovered a new galaxy that was called an ultra-diffuse galaxy because it's as big as a galaxy like the Milky Way, but its stars are spread out thinly. It was called the DG-SAT-1. It is strange because unlike most other galaxies, this one was sitting all alone. It was a loner. Others are typically found in clusters. It has also been said that it seems to be an object formed in a different era of the universe, approximately 1 billion or so years after the Big Bang. Some think DG-SAT is a living fossil. Interesting. In our number 1 spot today, we have the cosmic cliffs of the Carina Nebula. In a very recent broadcast at NASA headquarters, NASA released new photos from the James Webb Space Telescope that has helped astrologers gather data that they never had before. There was one picture in particular that was of the cosmic cliffs of the Carina Nebula. With this picture, astronomers were able to see brand new stars that were completely hidden before. The host spoke about how by looking at the photo you get a sense of depth and texture. They also discovered over 100 or more new stars, bubbles and cavities and jets that are being blown out by these newborn stars, galaxies, lurking in the background of this picture. They saw structures that have never been seen before that have left them puzzled as well. The cliffs of Carina Nebula are extremely strange but beautiful to look at.
We're going to start off the list with a recent UFO sighting in Middletown. So in June of 2023, a number of residents reported seeing strange lights in the sky over town. The lights were in a circular formation, rotating. A man named Caden Little managed to capture the weird lights on video. We see them hovering in place, rotating in a counterclockwise direction before flying off at such an amazing speed that if you blink, it just looks like they vanish completely. President of the Cincinnati Astronomical Society, Brian Simpson, looked at the footage, saying that the lights definitely weren't from a drone based on the speed at which they flew out of sight. I think this is a pretty cool piece of footage, but what do you guys think? Genuine? Hoax? Leave your thoughts down in the comments. And while you're at it, why not hit that subscribe button as well? Here's a creepy piece of footage from TikTok. A couple was hiking at night in Ohio when they pulled out their camera to film this pair of eyes peeking out at them from the tree line. At first, they thought it was a deer, but at one point they realized it really doesn't seem to be a deer. Something about the way the eyes are moving and the fact that deers rarely decide to follow people. I really want nothing to do with human beings. So it becomes pretty clear that there's something else tailing them. Now, we never get to see the creature in full. It lurks in the shadows the entire time, but some commenters have said it kind of moves like a big cat. Others have commented it could be the Ohio grassman or dogman. Whether this was a cryptid or a predatory animal, either would be terrifying. Eventually, the couple wisely decides to hurry out of there. The small village of Sabina once had something of a mascot, a very macabre mascot. It was a mummy. So in 1929, an African-American man in his mid to late 40s was found dead on a road near Sabina. No ID, just $1.40 in cash and a scrap of paper with an address that turned out to be a vacant lot in Cincinnati. The authorities had no idea who this guy was, so they went with the name Eugene. Eugene the mummy was taken to Sabina's Littleton funeral home and embalmed. They put him in a brick shed by a bus stop, thinking maybe someone would recognize him during the 30-day viewing period. But no luck. Folks in Sabina got kind of attached to their new resident, though. They cleaned him up, they changed his clothes. Things got really weird, though, when local kids started playing with him and moving him around, even swiping his gold teeth. Teenagers would even take the poor guy out on joyrides. The mummy ended up being taken to Ohio State University and was placed on a bench outside the school to scare students. The Littleton funeral home got wind of this, and Eugene was sent back to Sabina, and at this point it was clear the guy needed to be buried. Eugene got a plot in the local cemetery, complete with a stone that says he was found dead in 1929, buried 1964. His identity is still a complete mystery. Next up, we have the case of the Peninsula Python. I think this is one of my favorite stories to come out of Ohio. It's not often that a massive-sized wild python ends up roaming through a middle American state, but in one magical summer in Ohio, that's exactly what happened. In the summer of 1944, something strange happened in Summit County, Ohio, near the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. People started reporting sightings of a massive python about 15 feet long and incredibly thick. Now, at first, authorities didn't take these reports seriously, thinking it might be a hoax or some kind of wild exaggeration. As it turned out, though, what could have gone down as just another one of Ohio's many urban legends turned out to actually be very real. The residents were not making it up. Somehow a large python was let loose. No one could explain how the snake ended up in Ohio, but there it was. During that summer, the residents were terrified as the enormous snake roamed through farms, leaving behind indentations the size of giant tires. To make matters worse, the python even attacked livestock. I mean, of course it did, right? Authorities spent the whole summer hunting this thing down, but it was never found. It just disappeared eventually. Most likely it died from exposure during the harsh Ohio winter. Next up is the Crosswick monster case. This was a very well-documented case at the time, and is one of the strangest stories ever to come out of the state of Ohio. Just saying a lot. So in 1882, two boys, Ed and Joe Lynch, had a really terrifying encounter with a strange creature in a field. They heard strange noises from tall grass, and before they could react, they said they saw this large lizard-like beast with 4 legs come out of them. The creature approached the two, grabbed Ed in its jaws, and started dragging him towards a hollowed-out tree. Ed's screams ended up catching the attention of nearby men who rushed over to help. They managed to rescue Ed, but he was injured. After the incident, 60 men armed themselves with axes and clubs, and they formed a posse to hunt down this thing. They caught up with it, and the creature then stood on its hind legs. The chase led them to a hill of rocks where the creature escaped into a hole, never to be seen again. The local newspaper reported the story at the time, and it's since become a staple of Ohio's folklore. And I could see why. I mean, a lot of folks saw this thing that day. The exact nature of the creature, still a total mystery. So yeah, I don't know. I just love that story. Anytime there's like multiple people who see something, that just it makes it far more interesting for me. Next is another UFO case. This is the Trumbull County incident. This was a series of events where numerous residents reported seeing these unusual lights in the sky. Even police officers reported seeing things. Multiple residents reported sightings of odd lights in the night sky, describing them as bright and unusual aerial activities. Officer Toby Maloro was on duty that night. He was dispatched to investigate reported lights, and he was driving closer and closer to the source of these lights, keeping contact with the dispatcher, describing what he saw in real time. And at one point, radio communication was suddenly cut off, and his vehicle stopped. Maloro then became engulfed in a bright light from above. He got out of his vehicle for some reason to get a better view and reported seeing this massive circular object hovering in the sky. One of the strangest parts about his description of these events is that even though this thing was massive, it was almost completely silent. After a period of time, the object began to move away, and just as the craft moved off, his car and radio started working again. It's a pretty fascinating case, not just because of the detailed account made by Officer Malero, but all the corroborating reports from other residents as well. Now, a corroborated UFO case is one thing, but mass amounts of people frantically phoning into the police claiming to witness a large mutated octopus man, that is a whole other story. Very wild case right here. So the Octoman case, this unfolded on the 29th of January, 1959 in Cincinnati. It was a series of reports to the local cops about a bizarre octopus-like creature. The first report came from a man who urgently contacted police. He had a hard time describing what he was seeing because no one's ever seen a mutated octopus man before. And then a truck driver phoned up saying he'd encountered an unusual creature while driving into Cincinnati. Reports then just kept flooding in. The common thread with these calls is that people apparently sounded genuinely distressed. The creature was described as very large and had grayish skin, tentacle-like appendages, and a lopsided chest. Not sure exactly what that means, but I don't know, just maybe kind of like hunchback kind of. One witness provided a more detailed account, stating it was large. Not a dog or a cat. It leaped in front of my car on two legs and was taller than the auto. When I looked back in my mirror, it was moving along the bridge rail. It was 3 or 4 times the size of a man and much bulkier. I have an eye and mind for dimensions, and I know it was huge. If I ever had the opportunity to go back in time, like forget going to Woodstock or anything like that, I'd just be like, take me to Cincinnati, Ohio, January 29th, 1959. I just want to know what everyone saw that night. Like, was it just a guy with a horrible deformity? Was there just something weird in the air that night? Or was there a freaking octopus creature roaming around that bridge? I desperately want to know. The Cedar Bog Monster. So the Cedar Bog Monster is just one of Ohio's many variations of Bigfoot. Back in the 50s, people started spreading stories about a creature hanging out in the Cedar Bog Nature Preserve. It was described as a large, hairy figure standing around 7 feet tall, with eyes that shined in the dark, and a not-so-pleasant odor. One of the most famous sightings was from a couple who had parked near the bog. They spotted the huge, hairy creature strolling along Woodburn Road, which runs right beside the bog. They hightailed it out of there, of course, and reported the incident to the police. And there would be more and more accounts being reported. People started saying they were hearing strange noises in the woods, like grunts and howls. Some would find massive-sized footprints. Local news even featured the Cedar Bog Monster in a headline. Now, what I wonder is, if this thing really did exist, is it a different creature the Grassman and Orange Eyes and like all these other big hairy creatures roaming around Ohio? Or are these folks seeing the same creature or species of creature? These are the important questions you have to ask yourself. Another one of Ohio's strangest cases is the Werewolf of Defiance sightings. So in the summer of 1972, on the Norfolk and Western Railway in Defiance, two railroad workers, Ted Davis and Tom Jones, experienced a bizarre and unsettling event that would later be dubbed the Werewolf of Defiance case. It all began with Ted Davis, who while working away on the railroad saw something otherworldly. He reported seeing a large wolf-like creature. The creature actually held a wooden board in its paws, and without warning, it swung the board, striking Ted squarely on the shoulder. The creature then hastily retreated into the bushes like a coward. 5 days later, Ted and his coworker, Tom Jones, returned to the railway for another day of work. For some reason, they didn't quit after that first encounter. Sure enough, the creature shows up again, and this time it was actually a safe distance away from the two, and Ted and Tom then reported their encounters to the local police. Little did they know that their report was just the beginning of a wave of Wolfman sightings in the area. Other reports started flooding in, each detailing sightings of this menacing wolf monster, but reports started to trickle out by the end of that summer. So, did people hear about that first report and just want attention? Was the whole thing a big hoax? Once again, I'd really love to go back in time and just hide by that railway to watch the whole thing play out. Finally, we have the case of the Minerva monster. Back in 1978, folks in Minerva started talking about a hairy creature running around in the woods. A big, hairy, unknown beast. People claimed it was about 7 feet tall, had reddish-brown hair, and looked like a giant ape. Yes, another giant ape in Ohio. There are many. It all started when the Caton family saw this monster near a gravel pit outside their house, and they saw it on more than one occasion. One night they saw it peering at them through their window. It would also hurl rocks at their home. A real awful creature. It scared the living daylights out. Of course, they even said it smelled bad, like a mix of skunk and a wet dog. Not exactly a pleasant combo. Authorities were contacted and they came to investigate, but all that was left behind were large footprints around the family's property, leading back into the woods. A number of other residents also made reports about a similar creature around the same time, including the Caton's neighbor. It's still a complete mystery, though, as to what this thing was.
What is the Kraken? The subject of many a superstitious sailor, this creature originated from Scandinavian folklore and is depicted as an aggressive, cephalopod-like creature capable of destroying entire ships and dragging sailors to their doom. Legends say the creature could devour a whole ship and its crew in its entirety, and if that didn't work, it would swim round the ship in circles to create a whirlpool, sucking the ship down into the deep, dark depths of the sea. Though it seems like a death sentence, many sailors would take the risk and approach the beast, as it said huge schools of fish would surround the creature, and I guess they just wanted to take their chances. And now, one Reddit user, Brave and Butter, believes they saw one on Google Earth. Their post explains that they are sure they're not the first to find this, but it seems to be some sort of Kraken. The spot in question is near a place called Deception Island in the Antarctic region. A little ironic, I know. And they theorize that the dark spot on the bottom left is actually the giant squid-like creature from a sailor's nightmares. I mean, to be fair, we do know of actual giant cephalopods that have been caught, though not the size told in the tales of the Kraken, but could the age-old folklore creature actually be real? We may never know. Next up at number 9, Nagoro. A teeny little rural village in the Aya Valley region of Japan. What makes this seemingly cute and quaint town a mysterious and creepy one is that it is famous for being filled with upwards of 350 life-sized dolls. Now, I don't know about you, but there are few things I find more terrifying than a creepy doll, and it's only made creepier when you find out that the entire village is only made up of about 27 residents. Apparently in the early 2000s, Sukumi Ayano, who'd moved away from the area when she was young, moved back once her father fell ill, and as a gift for him, she made her first doll in his likeness and placed it in a field. Since that day, she has made more than 4 500. But she isn't alone in this endeavor. Inspired by the initial doll for her father, many residents in the village followed in her footsteps and began making their own life-size dolls in their likeness or for their loved ones. And soon enough, even the school was joining in on the trend. Sadly, the school closed in 2012 due to the decreasing population. However, the dolls remain scattered across the village, growing in numbers as the years go by. Now, I mean, this is more strange in the sense of like, just why did they continue to place so many creepy dolls in one place? But hey, maybe that's just me. Coming in at number 8, a massive pentagram. In an isolated corner of Kazakhstan lies a dark symbol measuring roughly 1,200 feet that appears to have been literally carved right into the Earth's surface. Although you might not be able to fully see the symbol at ground level, from above the stark pentagram is clear as day. Conspiracy theorists have linked the cliffside pentagram to the Freemasons and Wiccans, believing that it is a site of animal sacrifice and satanic ritual, although this has never actually been confirmed. But I will admit it is a bit mysterious. Apparently there are almost no other signs of human habitation in the area, plus, you know, a giant pentagram etched into the Earth's surface isn't something you see every day, nor is it usually a great sign. So whether it is a cursed geoglyph from Satan worshippers or not, I would say it's a strange discovery nonetheless. Moving on to number 7, underwater pyramids. Located in the Bahamas, this photo found in Google Earth has left many thinking that they've discovered underwater pyramids. Now let me just be transparent and admit that this is a full conspiracy theory, but I mean that doesn't make it not an entertaining mystery. The main conspiracy surrounding the discovery of these alleged underwater pyramids is that they are living proof of the long lost city of Atlantis, or at the very least proof of some ancient Aztec civilization. But of course there are others out there who claim these underwater pyramids all have to do with aliens. This mysterious structure is estimated to measure between 3.5 to 11 miles across based on the photos, although no one knows for sure as you can't get to the structure to see for yourself. If it is in fact a pyramid and the size that many believe it to be, it would be bigger than any pyramid ever built. But seeing as though no one can visit them, it might be a long while before we know if these pyramids prove any kind of extraterrestrial involvement on Earth. Moving on to number 6, UFO crash site. Whether you tend to believe in aliens or not, this one is pretty freaking wild. From what you can see on Google Earth, it appears that a flying saucer crashed in the plains of South Africa, and if you Google it today, you can still find it there. Now, a few things about this are unsettling. Around the UFO is a well-worn dirt path, which has led some to believe that aliens themselves could be hiding out there. Allegedly, no one has visited this location, and so I mean, how else would a dirt path have been formed if not by someone or something walking around the area? Plus, to top it all off, the top appears to be metallic from the area it's shot from, which is unlike any rooftops on other buildings in the area. And many conspiracy theorists are convinced it's a UFO. But no one has been able to explain once and for all if that's true or not. I mean, you tell me, what do you think you are seeing here? Moving on to number 5, Baker Lake. Up in a remote location of Nunavut, Canada, there is a seemingly innocuous place called Baker Lake that for some mysterious reason is not fully visible on Google Earth. In fact, if you do a quick search, there is actually a long black strip that covers a good chunk of the area, and as I'm sure you can imagine, it has garnered a terrifying conspiracy theory to explain why that is. The theory states that this black strip is actually covering extraterrestrial beacons that the government secretary brought down to Earth in 1972. The theory then goes on to explain that these top secret beacons exert powerful electromagnetic fields that disrupt Earth's natural energy grids, which in turn have altered the weather and have been used to focus the Earth's energy in undisclosed ways. Further, there are some out there who propose that because these alleged beacons are stolen space property, it has caused a massive war with aliens, hence the uprising in alleged UFO sightings. Now, in reality, we have no concrete evidence to back any of that up, but it is still a strange discovery that has yet to be explained. Moving on to number 4. a strange figure. Discovered through Google Earth in France, a strange pseudo-human figure was spotted standing on a balcony, and there have been many people with many opinions about what it could really be. I mean, it sort of looked like a person, but with very thin limbs, a large head, and bulging white eyes, so naturally, the internet went into a frenzy declaring it was a monster, a gruesome statue, a mummy, and of course there were the believers that it was an alien. However, even weirder was that shortly after it was discovered, Google quickly covered up the figure with a blurred box. This only made matters more intriguing. Why cover up something that you aren't trying to hide, many wondered. Were conspiracy theorists correct? Was this actually some kind of extraterrestrial species? Well, considering it's not visible anymore, we are not likely to find that out, but man, what a weird little situation. Moving on to number 3, the eye. Several years ago, while he was scanning through Google looking for a location to film a documentary, director Sergio Nesperellum came across a strange formation situated in the northeast of Argentina. The formation in question was a fascinating island surrounded by water that had formed in a circular shape, hence the eye. But what was strange, or even unsettling, was that it was constantly moving and spinning around in circles. Now, while there are some scientific theories about why this is and how this strange little island was formed, truthfully none have been able to definitively answer what is at play. Which of course means that paranormal enthusiasts as well as alien theorists have put in their 2 cents claiming that some otherworldly entity is afoot. So until scientists are able to come up with a definitive explanation for how this was formed, why it floats, and what is going on, alien involvement is not off the table, at least according to some people. Coming in at number 2, Red Lake. First found in Baghdad, Iraq, Lago Vermelho in Sadr City is a lake that was normally a standard greenish blue color, but for a time in 2007 suddenly appeared as a bright blood red color on Google Earth, which created quite the stir across the internet. At first it seemed so out of the question that many believed it was just a glitch, but in reality the lake really was red and no one understood why. Theories of the mysterious sighting ranged from a chemical spill or a red algae bloom to a particularly gruesome rumor that slaughterhouses near the lake had dumped a large amount of animal blood into it. However, the actual reason was never actually discovered. The good news is that the lake eventually returned to its normal state of greenish blue, but it still remains as one of Google Earth's many mysteries. And last up in our number 1 spot, major crime. It doesn't get much creepier than this, you've probably heard of this one, but back in 2009 in the Netherlands, a very creepy image appeared on Google Earth that had just about the entire internet wondering what the hell they were seeing. The image shows a pedestrian dock in Beatrix Park in the Dutch city of Almere, but the concerning bits are the long red trail of smears across the boards that end with what looks like a bloody body with a mysterious person standing by. Many people immediately jumped to the same conclusion. Did Google Earth actually capture someone being killed in broad daylight? Here's what we do know. Reportedly, there was no investigation or follow-ups on it, which would hopefully mean that a dead person was not what is being shown here. However, it's still a super creepy image. Some have suggested that the red trail isn't actually blood, but water staining, which appears red due to the color of the wood, and that the body is actually that person's dog who is going for a swim. But why don't you let me know what you think it is down below.
Black hole. Edward Morgan from MIT collected X-ray data on a distant black hole, then transmitted it into a sound that is audible to humans. The original of this is about 1,000,000 billion times deeper than anything you could ever hear. The deepest note in the universe, in fact. But with a little bit of tweaking, here is a sound of an actual black hole, and it's terrifying. Coming out at number 9, we have the lost cosmonaut. In 1961, two Italian brothers recorded a signal from space which they claimed was from a secret Soviet space mission. It sounded like a female cosmonaut who was in distress while trying to orbit the Earth. Something had apparently gone wrong. She was complaining of feeling hot as she burned up in the atmosphere. Now the Russians announced that an unmanned craft had burned up in the atmosphere and denied they had any knowledge of the lost cosmonaut. At the number 8 spot now, we have Tabby's star. This mysterious star was discovered by amateur astronomers and found to be about 1,400 light years from Earth. The strange thing was, the brightness of it would dip by 22% for days at a time. Some suggested it was a Dyson sphere, a theoretical alien structure that would enclose a whole star to harvest all of its power. For many years it's been just a sci-fi idea, but Tabby's star seemed to fit this theory very well. At the time of recording, scientists are still carrying out further studies. Coming in at number 7 now, we have 234 stars. In 2016, Canadian astronomers found something very strange within the Milky Way. 234 stars that were blinking at exactly the same rate. Eric Trottier, the astronomer who found this, proposed that the signal was just too much of a coincidence. He thought it was of alien origin. He said that the pulsating signals were caused by an alien civilization flashing a laser in our direction, causing a faint but detectable blip in their star's light. The stars could even be 234 different civilizations pulling together to try and contact us. Moving on to number 6 now, we have the sound of Saturn. In 2002, the Cassini spacecraft passed by the gas giant of Saturn. It listened to the planet's aurora caused by its huge magnetic field. The signal was way out of human hearing, so they slowed it right down, they compressed it, and this is what they heard. Alright, moving on to number 5 now, we have the Lorimer burst. This signal was detected in 2007 after astronomers dug through 6 years of previous data. Then, they found it. It was a very brief burst of radio emission, just 5 milliseconds in total. The area it came from was 5 to 11 billion light years away from Earth. This means that when the signal left its origin, Earth hadn't even been formed yet, which is mind-blowing. Scientists were shocked to find that whatever made this signal released more energy in that short burst than the sun does in 4 months. Moving on to number 4 now, we have this. It's a very weird name, but it has an incredible story behind it. Scientists detected this signal from an empty area of space with no stars or planet systems near it for about 1,000 light years, from an area between the constellations of Pisces and Aries, and yet a signal came. It was detected as being a short burst at about 1420 megahertz. That's one of the main frequencies at which hydrogen, the most common element in the universe, absorbs and emits energy. Scientists have often thought of using this to contact any aliens out there, and so when we received it, it's drawn a lot of attention. Coming in at number 3 now, we have frequency 4462.3. This signal came from a star only 100 light years from us, and it was a star quite similar to our own. It's called TYC 1220911, and it was nothing out of the ordinary until it did something. The noise it made was just 10 seconds long, but now that it's been adjusted so we can hear it, it's very scary and creepy. Tell me what you think of it. At number 2, we have the cosmic roar. In 2006, a group of California astronomers were trying to detect the very first stars in the universe. Instead, they heard a radio wave roar. What they heard was 6 times louder than the faint signal they expected to detect. In fact, this roar was 6 times greater than the combined emission of all known radio wave sources. And this wasn't the sound of the Big Bang. It was the sound of something mysterious from the start of the universe, something more intense than we've ever encountered. And finally now at number 1, we have the wow signal. What else could it be, really? In 1977, Ohio State University's Big Ear radio telescope detected the strangest signal ever heard from space. It came from the Sagittarius constellation, and many scientists thought that it sounded like it could be of extraterrestrial origin. It lasted for 72 seconds, and then it was never heard of again. The astronomer who found the signal was so shocked by it that they wrote "wow" in the margin, giving us its name. warning. Now it's been adjusted like some of the other ones so that we can hear it, and this is what it sounds like.
Now first up we have an asteroid could destroy Earth. A newly discovered asteroid roughly the size of an Olympic swimming pool has had a small chance of colliding with Earth in 23 years, with a potential impact on Valentine's Day 2046, according to NASA's Planetary Defense Coordination Office. Speaking of Valentine's Day, as you can tell by my look, I'm filming this on Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's Day to all you amazing people. We all love you here at Most Amazing Top 10. Now, back to the talk of an asteroid that could destroy us. Now, this asteroid has a 1 in 625 chance of striking Earth, based on data projections from the European Space Agency, though NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory Synergy System calculated the odds are now closer to 1 in 560. Now, I gotta be honest, I really don't like those odds. NASA officials have warned that the odds of impact could be dramatically altered as more observations are collected and additional analysis is performed. Often when new objects are first discovered, NASA Asteroid Watch noted, it takes several weeks of data to reduce the uncertainties and adequately predict the orbits years into the future. So by the time it is 2045, it could be directly in our path or vary from it, but I'm hoping that it's far away. Up next is the large planet. In September 2023, NASA discovered that a large planet is somehow orbiting a star that should have destroyed it. Yeah, that does not sound good. Planet 8 Ursae Minoris b orbits a star some 530 light years away that it's in its path of destruction. Now, the star would have been expected to expand beyond the planet's orbit before receding to the present still giant size. In other words, the star would have engulfed and ripped apart any planets orbiting closely around it, yet the planet remains in a stable, nearly circular orbit, which is just weird. The discovery of this seemingly impossible situation, relying on precise measurements using NASA's Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite tests, shows that the planet formation and destruction are likely far more intricate and unpredictable than many scientists may have thought, and that scares me. In the late 1960s, NASA faced a decision that could have destroyed many human lives and perhaps have ended the world. Following the Apollo 11 moon landings, the 3 astronauts were waiting to be picked up inside their capsule floating in the Pacific Ocean, but they were hot and uncomfortable. NASA officials decided to make things more pleasant for their 3 national heroes, and I mean, they did just come from space and all, but the downside, there was a small possibility of unleashing deadly alien microbes on Earth. Now, a couple of decades beforehand, a group of scientists and military officials stood at a similar turning point. As they waited to watch the first atomic weapon test, they were aware of a potentially catastrophic outcome. There was a chance that their experiments might accidentally ignite the atmosphere and destroy all life on the planet. Now, thankfully, there were no deadly microbes released, but could you imagine if there were? Moving on to the parallel universe. A group of NASA scientists working on an experiment in Antarctica detected evidence of a parallel universe where the rules of physics are opposite of our own. A cosmic ray detection experiment has found particles that could be from a parallel realm that was also born in the Big Bang. The experts used a giant balloon to carry NASA's Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna, or ANITA, high above Antarctica, where the frigid dry air provided the perfect environment with little to no radio noise to distort its findings. Now, a constant wind of high energy particles constantly arrives on Earth from outer space, and that means the high energy particles can only be detected coming down from space, but the team's ANITA detected heavier particles which came up out of the Earth. Now, the finding implies that these particles are actually traveling backward in time, suggesting evidence of a parallel universe. Is that at the moment of the Big Bang, 13.8 billion years ago, 2 universes were formed. Ours, and the one from our perspective that is running in reverse with time going backward. Now, parallel universe Emily, if you're somehow watching this, hi! Now let's talk about nuclear annihilation. Okay, so this was a time the world could have ended, so that's
Nice. Before the first atomic weapons test in 1945, scientists at the Manhattan Project performed calculations that pointed to a chilling possibility. In one scenario, they plotted out the heat from the fission explosions would be so great that it could trigger runaway fusion. Now, in other words, the test might have accidentally set the atmosphere on fire and burn away the oceans, destroying most of the life on Earth. Subsequent studies suggested that it was most likely impossible, but right up until the day of the test, the scientists checked and rechecked their analysis. The day of the Trinity test finally came, and officials decided to go ahead. Now, when the flash was longer and brighter than expected, at least one member of the team watching it thought the worst had happened. Now, the strange thing is, none of the calculations were ever subjected to peer review of a disinterested party, and there was also no evidence that any elected representative was told about the risk, let alone any other governments. Now, the scientists and military leaders went ahead on their own, which is just plain old terrifying. Then there's another asteroid that could destroy Earth. An asteroid NASA's been tracking for nearly 25 years could impact Earth in the near future. Now, thankfully, we won't be around by then, but it still is a scary possibility. First discovered in 1999, Bennu, the near-Earth asteroid, could possibly drift into the planet's orbit and could hit the planet by September 2182. Bennu passes near Earth every 6 years and has had 3 close encounters with Earth in 1999, 2005, and 2011. There is a 1 in 2,700 or 0.037% chance that Bennu could hit Earth by 2182, scientists said. In October 2020, the OSIRIS-REx organization briefly touched the surface of Bennu, collecting a sample and then propelled off the asteroid. Now, it was the first mission of its kind for NASA. Now, if Bennu were to hit Earth, it would release 1,200 megatons of energy, which is 24 times the energy of most man-made nuclear weapons. So in other words, it would not be good if it hit us. Now we have the universe is expanding rapidly. The study of the universe's expansion rate has been a topic that has fascinated scientists and astronomers for a very long time. The Hubble Space Telescope has been providing a huge amount of data for the scientists to study, and NASA believes that something strange is happening in the universe, considering how fast it's expanding. According to NASA, the data provided by the Hubble Space Telescope shows that the rate of expansion has become much quicker in comparison than the expected rate. But NASA was not able to provide a concrete reason behind the discrepancy and went on to call it something weird. Now, gonna be honest, with NASA simply calling it something weird, that just doesn't make me feel any better. The Hubble telescope has been gathering data for the last 30 years, and it shows that although it was predicted that the rate of expansion will be 67.5 kilometers per second per megaparsec with a margin of error of 0.5, the current rate of expansion is somewhere around 73. Onto a black hole swallows Earth. Now, I think everyone is a little scared of the idea of a black hole and the fact that they can pretty much suck up anything they want. And although we don't have a lot of information on black holes, in May 2022, astronomers revealed the first ever photograph of a black hole at the center of our galaxy. Now, it's incredibly unlikely Earth would fall into a black hole because at a distance, their gravitational pull is no more compelling than a star of the same mass. The only way Earth would be swallowed by a black hole would be if our planet happened to stray across a wandering black hole's event horizon. Now, even though it is unlikely, it's still possible, and that is scary. Up next, we have the new super Earth. A new super Earth has been discovered in a nearby solar system's habitable zone, according to NASA. The planet, designated as TOI-715b, is about 1.5 times as wide as Earth, and in a system that is only a measly 137 light years from Earth. Now, NASA explains this is fairly close, as for comparison, our Milky Way galaxy is approximately 100,000 light years across. Now, the planet orbits a red dwarf star, which is cooler and smaller than our sun. Because the star runs cool, this super Earth can orbit closer and still be within the solar system's habitable zone, which is the distance from the star that could give the planet the right temperature for liquid water to form on its surface, and therefore sustain life. Another side effect of a closer orbit is that the planet passes in front of its star that much more often, making it easier to track and observe, very easy, and in this case, a year on TOI-715b lasts 19 days. Now, could humans live on TOI-715b one day in the future? I guess we'll have to wait and see. And lastly, we have deadly solar flares. The sun frequently releases powerful bursts of energy and charged particles known as solar storms. These solar outbursts, when they reach our planet, create auroras but can also interfere with modern technology. On April 21st, 2023, a powerful solar event sent a fast-moving burst of plasma towards Earth, causing a severe geomagnetic storm 2 days later. Now, this storm disrupted power, communication systems, and satellite functions. It also created brilliant auroras. Monitored by NOAA's Discover spacecraft, this was the third major storm of its kind in the current solar cycle, following similar events in 2021 and earlier in 2023. Now, if a solar flare were to hit Earth today, it would emit X-rays and ultraviolet light, which would reach Earth's atmosphere and interfere with electronics, as well as radio and satellite signals. It could also cause a solar radiation storm, which could potentially be deadly to astronauts not fully equipped with protective gear and unprotected by Earth's atmosphere. Now finally, a cloud of charged particles would bump against Earth's magnetic field. Such an event would mean outages that would decommission everything from cell phones and computers to automobiles and airplanes. Cities would lose power for weeks and potentially months, and many activities necessary to daily life would no longer be possible. The potential consequences of a large-scale solar flare hitting Earth have scientists scrambling to develop an early warning system and new solar flare detection methods, much like the people who came before them once learned to forecast deadly tornadoes and other weather events. Yeah, I definitely think they need to have systems in place to monitor these.
2016, herpetologist Jill Fleming was in a forest in Connecticut exploring the wildlife when she came across a toad that was lacking its entire face. But it was still alive, and it was hopping around into things. There's a couple of theories as to what happened to this toad. Theory 1 is that its face was eaten off by flesh-eating toadfly larvae. Theory 2 is that a predator ate its face off during hibernation, and since it did happen when it was hibernating, its face managed to heal itself over. Either way, this toad is quite a weird find. In our 9th spot, we have the Lincoln log. Posted on Reddit by the user Texas Joey, they were out for a hike somewhere in Texas when they came across something very odd. Embedded in the trunk of a fallen tree were rows upon rows of pennies. It didn't make any sense, pun intended. There were so many pennies that he couldn't coint how many there were. I mean, it looks pretty cool, but who decided to do this? How much money did they spend on it? And how did they get the pennies in the tree in the first place? Coming in at number 8, we have the artificial womb. A team of researchers at a Philadelphia lab have created an artificial womb that in the future may be able to help premature babies. So basically, they created a bag of fluids to resemble the womb with a mechanical placenta that keeps blood oxygenated. As part of the experiment, they removed lambs who were just 15 to 17 weeks old from their mothers and placed them in this bag. They discovered that the lambs could grow normally with few complications. That's a pretty huge discovery, especially since premature babies are prone to infection in incubators. As weird as it may be, an artificial womb might be the way to go. Coming in at number 7, we have the mysterious stone. In 1872, a weird stone was found buried close to Lake Winnipesaukee, I know I pronounced that wrong, in New Hampshire. The stone looks like an egg in shape, is dark, smooth, and has a number of carved images on it. Some of the carved things are a face, corn, and a teepee. But since the discovery, it has baffled scientists. What is it? Who made it, and why? One theory is that it was made by Native Americans as sort of like an olive branch to give to other tribes. Another theory is that it has Celtic or Inuit origins. Another thing that's weird about the stone is that there are 2 holes drilled into it, one at the top and one at the bottom. But they are so precise. The question is, how did they manage that without modern day tools? Because of this, some people believe that it was a thunderstorm made by supernatural forces. In our 6th spot, we have Dighton Rock. In 1690, a 40-ton boulder with weird markings was found in the Taunton River in Massachusetts. No one knows what the markings are or what it's about. One theory is that the markings are Norse in origin.
It possibly depicts a Viking voyage. Another theory is that it was the work of Native Americans. The rock is telling us something, but we haven't figured it out just yet. Over the years, people have tried to decode it, but still haven't been successful. The only people that know what the rock means are the ones that made it themselves. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with America's Stonehenge. Located outside of Salem, New Hampshire, is a bunch of weird rock structures known as America's Stonehenge. So there's a bunch of man-made chambers, walls, and structures all made out of stone. In fact, this structure is considered the oldest man-made construction in the US. It's thought to be over 4,000 years old, but no one knows what it was used for or why it was built. One theory is that it was used as an area for ceremonial gatherings. Another theory is that it somehow is an astrological calendar. But we truly don't know. So for now, it remains a weird mystery. Coming in at number 4, we have Donald Trump Eye. Back in 2017, a strange moth was discovered in Southern California. It's a tiny moth with yellowish white scales on its head, and it was named Neopalpa Donald Trump Eye. Yeah, Donald Trump has its own moth named after him. Why? Well, the scales on the moth's head look a lot like Donald Trump's signature hairdo, so the scientist that discovered it named it after him. Which, I mean, it's cool, I want something named after me, but certainly not a moth. Moving on to number 3, we have the Great Serpent Mound. Located in Ohio, the Great Serpent Mound is an effigy mound, aka a fancy way of saying a mound in the shape of an animal. In this case, it looks like a snake with a curled tail. Some say that it looks like the snake has its mouth open and it's about to engulf an egg, while others believe it depicts a snake with one big eye. So this mound is the world's largest surviving effigy mound from the prehistoric era. Built around 1080, this mound is around 1,348 meters long and 3 feet high. What makes it weird is the fact that we don't know why this was created, or by what culture, or what its use was. Maybe it was used in religious ceremonies, or is some sort of calendar. Who knows? In our second spot, we have the pig-human hybrid. Yeah, you heard me correctly. Scientists at the Salk Institute for Biological Sciences in California have created a human-pig hybrid. Now, you're probably wondering, why on earth would they do this? Because that certainly was my question. Well, they did this with hopes that one day they could grow human organs inside of pigs and other animals instead of just waiting for a donor. Yeah, I know how problematic that is going to be for a number of reasons. So in 2017, an embryo was placed in an adult pig for 4 weeks. Then it was taken out to analyze, and the embryo survived and contained some human cells. Now they're going to figure out if pig embryos can handle enough human cells to create human organs. Now if someone calls you a cow, you can be like, nah honey, only my heart is. And in our number 1 spot, we have the ginormous tadpole. Okay, there's something weird about the amphibians in the States. We got the faceless toad in Connecticut, and now we got a giant tadpole found in Arizona. Tadpoles vary in size, but typically they're anywhere from 1.3 inches to 4.2 inches. But not this tadpole. So while removing invasive bullfrogs from a shallow pond in Arizona, they stumbled upon a disgustingly big bullfrog tadpole. This thing was 10 inches long, larger than a soda can, pretty much as long as a banana, and its head was about the size of a big adult bullfrog's head. And while studying it, it continued to grow bigger and bigger. They believe that its massive size was due to a hormone imbalance. Because of its size, they named it the Goliath tadpole.
Want to see even more videos like this one? It's about real cursed paintings in history that you need to see to believe. Why were these paintings even commissioned in the first place? Click the video now to find out more. Create a video using exactly this script. Want to see even more videos like this one? Well, go ahead and check out this video next.